The purpose of this video is to convey what I would call the most important teaching. Now, the most important teaching is also the simplest teaching in a way. I mean, it's subtle, but it's very simple. And the most important teaching gets easily lost in a sea of other teachings, right? So this is just the nature of modern life. It's the nature of the internet. Famously, the author Aldous Huxley predicted a future in which the truth would not be covered up or obscured or hidden as his contemporary George Orwell feared, but rather the truth would be lost in a sea of triviality, he predicted. And that pretty much describes the internet and indeed our modern culture, which is information dense and misinformation dense. And, well, to be honest, the field of Tantra is too, not just in the modern period, but in the ancient times as well. Tantra was famous for an incredible proliferation of teachings and practices and deities and archetypes and ideas. It was a true explosion of cultural and spiritual and religious productivity. And so in all of that, it's easy for the most important teaching to get lost and obscured, even though it's right there in front of us, we don't notice it, or its significance is not sufficiently highlighted. So, what is the most important teaching? Well, it's simply this. Tat Twamasi. You already are that which you're seeking. So I'm going to elaborate on this in a few ways that I think are both accessible and hopefully provide a crucial revelation and corrective to this sometimes bewildering array of teachings and practices with which we're sometimes confronted. So here's the key. In modern spiritual communities, whether tantric, Vedantic, non-dualist, mindfulness communities, meditation communities, in almost all the modern spiritual communities, you hear people using this language. I want to connect to my higher self. I want to find my true self. I want to stay connected to my true self. I want to engage with my real nature. I want to discover my essence nature. Now, all of this language is deeply wrong in a very significant way, because with all these phrases, you are picturing your true nature as something other than yourself. Look at the structure of the sentence. I want to connect with my higher self or true self. In the sentence itself, you're already denying that you are that which you seek. You're already denying your true nature. So as one great meditation master said, to become a spiritual seeker, you must begin by denying the presence of that which you seek. To seek for God is to deny the presence of God implicitly, right? So whether we're talking about God or the divine or true self, by being a seeker, we are actively pushing away that which we seek. This is profoundly significant. Take a look at how you reinforce your denial of what you are with this sort of language and this sort of thinking. Now, you would be missing the point entirely if you just hear this as a teaching of how to talk non-dualistically, right? Harish said we shouldn't say that. I want to connect to my higher self. That's the wrong thing to say. My God, right? If that's where your brain goes, and many brains do, then you're entirely missing the teaching. Do not change your language for the sake of changing your language. Rather, discover the truth that I'm trying to point towards here, that you are already denying that you are that which you seek. So let's take a look at a subtler example of this. I want to be aware of my essence nature. Even in that phrase, you are denying that you are essence nature. How can you become aware of it? You can only become aware of it as an object, right? As something you discover. It's impossible. You are the source of all consciousness, of all action, right? You are the discoverer, not the discovered, right? You are always the one that you are seeking, right? So as St. Francis of Assisi famously put it, the one you are looking for is the one who is looking. Always, already, in every moment. So you cannot be aware of essence nature or true self or whatever you want to call it, but you can be aware as essence nature. Contemplate this simple sentence. If I had to sum up the whole video in one sentence, it would be this. Stop trying to be aware of essence nature, which inevitably is just going to be your mental construct of essence nature, but seek to become aware as essence nature. Now, even that phrase is potentially misleading because you already are essence nature in every moment. It's that which gives you the power to be aware of anything at all. So essence nature or consciousness is that which gives you the power to hear these words right now. So what is actually being invited on the spiritual path? What is actually being invited? Simple. To relax out of your compulsive identification with some small subset of the contents of consciousness, and rather become that which you are, which is consciousness itself. And again, even that language is misleading because language is inherently dualistic. So if we say become what you are, that's a paradox because you already are what you are, right? And yet, here's the key. There's this tension. There's this tension when you try to be something other than what you are, right? So if you think, I am this body, I am this mind, I am these thoughts and emotions, I am the thinker of the thoughts, I am the feeler of the emotions, in an exclusive way, I am this and not that, right? I am not the whole of existence, I'm not the whole of consciousness, I'm not the whole of what I perceive, just a small part. I'm just a small part of what I perceive, which is body-mind, or thoughts and emotions, right? This is a source of tension when you try to be some small subset of your experience, right? Then you are still consciousness, but your consciousness playing make-believe. And make-believe is sometimes fun, but also it's a source of great tension, right? It's the tension that underlies all forms of tension and anxiety in human life, okay? Not counting biological anxiety, like when you don't have enough to eat and you're anxious about where your next meal might be coming from. That's biological in origin, right? But all other forms of anxiety and tension in human life have this as their fundamental underpinning, which is this compulsive identification, this trying to become that which you're not, which is a small subset of your experience, whether you call it body-mind, whether you call it by your name, whether you call it in terms of your thoughts and emotions, doesn't matter. It's still a tiny subset of your experience. Be what you are. Consciousness manifesting the whole of its experience, moment to moment. And the whole of its experience includes everything. Everything perceived and everything perceptible. So that's why the key to the whole spiritual path is to become undistracted and relaxed, because the two problems, as it were, are distraction and identification. So you're constantly distracted. If you're a normal person, you're distracted by your thoughts, you're distracted by your worries, you're distracted by your feelings, you're distracted by your stories, you're distracted by media, you're distracted by cultural messaging, you're distracted by people's opinions of how you should be, you're distracted by countless different things. And there's this tension of identification, of trying to be someone or something, trying to be the person you think you are, or the person other people think you are, right? Or trying to be identified with, again, some small subset of your experience, which is not a natural state. So that's why the spiritual practices that work precisely to antidote these two issues, right? Distraction and identification. So some spiritual practices teach us to be focused and present, thereby seeking to antidote the issue of distraction. Other spiritual practices seek to help us relax out of our compulsive identification with some small, tiny feature of our experience, like our stories about ourselves, which are just thoughts. So to be undistracted or present and relaxed is to be what you are fully. Now again, you can't ever not be what you are. And yet, there's a big difference between, to use a metaphor, between being immersed in a pool of nectar, but trying to pull yourself out of it with all your might, and just relaxing into it. So in this metaphor, you're in the pool of nectar. The pool of nectar is your true nature. And yet you're trying to pull yourself out of it, and you might even just get yourself head and shoulders out of the pool of nectar, right? Which is part of the metaphor, because the head, the thoughts, the stories, that's where we lose touch with the nectarian presence of consciousness itself, of our true nature, right? So in this metaphor, once again, you're completely or almost completely immersed in the pool of nectar, and no metaphor is perfect, by the way, but you're still experiencing tension because you're trying to pull yourself out. Now, this is madness, right? Why would you try to pull yourself out of the pool of nectar? Well, to be honest, from the point of view of anyone who's truly awake, what you're doing does look like madness. Trying to be somebody, trying to live up to expectations, trying, instead of relaxing into the natural flow of existence, instead of simply being what you already are. What could you call that except a strange sort of madness, right? A temporary affliction. Relax and be what you are. You don't have to accomplish anything. Right? You don't have to unlock anything. You already are that. So let's just do a little exercise right here, right? Because the other problem on the spiritual path is when you think you need to attain something. I need to attain my true self. Again, that's language that absolutely pushes away exactly what you're trying to realize. You can't attain what you already are. It's impossible. So relax and be what you are. This simple, natural presence. What you are is not the thinker of the thoughts. There is no thinker. Thoughts just arise. Right? What you are is not the one who is trying to do this or that, right? That just arises. Everything just arises spontaneously within the field of consciousness. Now, If you don't understand what that means, don't worry about it. That's not the most important teaching. The most important teaching is relax and be, and you'll notice that everything is just appearing. It's arising. Everything is blossoming into existence in every moment. There are no static entities. Everything is blossoming into being in every moment. Whether you call it light, sound, sensation, thought, feeling, doesn't matter. You don't need all those labels that separate everything from each other. The labels can be useful in other contexts, but they're not ultimately real. You don't need them. Just notice how when you relax and just be, everything just is. Arising and subsiding in wave upon wave. Some waves are bigger than others. We call them intense experiences. But it's still just a wave in the ocean of consciousness. Some waves are tiny and subtle. Let yourself savor them all. You are the ocean of consciousness, but note, the ocean doesn't control itself. Its currents, its patterns of movement simply emerge as part of a complex system called the entire universe. In this very moment, you are what you seek. There's nothing else. And there's no other. These words are coming from what you are. Everything arises from what you are. Even the thought of yourself as an individual. It's arising from what you are, just like the wind and the sunshine. All these phenomena dancing within what you are. Coming and going. Your mind has no say in the matter. So you relax out of that manager mind and see it as just another phenomenon arising within consciousness. Just relax and be the simple, natural presence that you already are. It's always been there. Always. And how do you know? How do you know when you've fully done it, when you've fully relaxed into that which you are? Which, of course, is not something you do. It's something that happens when you stop trying to do. Right? But how do you know when you've fully relaxed into what you are? Well, you feel that everything somehow clicks into place. It's beyond words, but you might intuitively feel that you are and everything is one beautiful, interlocking, unfolding pattern. And somehow everything's taken care of. Always. And it couldn't be otherwise. And these words are feeble pointers to a feeling, a sense of things far beyond words and thoughts. Just trying to give you a sense of how you know, how to recognize when you've dropped in. And somehow everything is what you are. And at the center of it all, there's this simple, sweet, natural presence. And the center is everywhere. It's not one place. What a mystery. In the center of it all is simple presence. And the center is everywhere. It's that simple. This is the one indispensable practice. It's not even a practice, but it's taking time every day to relax out of identification, to let go of distractions, and to just be what you are. Keep doing this practice until it happens unbidden. You just find yourself inhabiting your natural presence at any point in the day without trying. You find yourself no longer separated from anything. No separation anywhere in anything. Keep practicing until that happens of its own accord. every day. Nothing else to actualize or realize or accomplish. It's the most important teaching and the one thing supremely worth doing in this life. Om. Yeah. Tat Twamasi, you are that. But from first person perspective, you say, Soham, I am that. Soham, I am that. Until there's no I and no that. Just being. May it be for a blessing.